Hey guys, it's Cassee and Crystal. We are back and here to just chit chat with you guys.
So, talk to me about the Asian air flight thing. You posted something on Facebook the other day about how this is the fifth one that's gone down.
Yeah, I was being moderately sarcastic. All this information was pulled off of a CNN article, but basically, just as a recap, there was the flight MH370 that disappeared on March 8th, 2014. It was from Malaysia Airlines. It basically disappeared. They've canceled the search for it, the last I knew. They still have no idea. They're assuming everyone's dead at this point. I don't really blame them. And then in July, they had Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was shot down over eastern Ukraine, killing everyone on board, which is 298 people. TransAsia was involved in a crash that same month in Taiwan, killing 48 people. They don't really know why that crashed yet. Then there was the other AirAsia flight that crashed on December 28th that killed 162 people.
Yeah.
And then most recently was this TransAsia flight GE 235 that basically made a mayday call and then crashed into, well, the wing clipped a highway and then it crashed into a river. So it's rather, I don't know, after hearing that many flights in such a short span of time, I'm just kind of looking at it like, that's a little too common for my sense of well-being says don't get on a plane with that group, those companies or anything, just don't.
Right. Well, my first thing that I think is, one, it's too coincidental. It's out there in the way that you're telling me that all of these planes just randomly fell and crashed. It's out there for me.
I feel like there's got to either be some pilot negligence going on or some just really poor
training.
Either poor training or poor airplanes in and of themselves. I mean, what are they doing with these planes? Are they getting regular maintenance? Are they actually being taken care of? This last one they say was an engine failure. I'm just like, oh, come on, really? I mean,
yeah.
I feel like they have completely different standards than us, and part of that's what scares me is the fact that they are very different, standards of airfare and how they handle and do maintenance and things like that. And our government is also very strict about, regulating these groups. If an airline is doing really poorly, they're not going to be in business. I just feel like it's very surprising that all these flights in such a short span of time are having just constant issues.
Right. Though, did you see the video of the last one going down?
Yeah, that scared me.
Like, I saw that car in front of the car that was recording it get clipped, and I'm just like, oh, that guy's in pain.
Yeah, apparently the two people that were in the car, two people in the taxi were injured. I don't know if that was all of that was the people that were in the taxi, just those two, but they don't report any deaths from the taxi, just 31 people on the flight killed.
It's up to 58 now.
Oh,
no,
58.
No, 31. It was carrying 58, and
it was carrying
31
58.
people died, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, this is
ridiculous.
And the aircraft was relatively new. It was first flew in March of 2014, and it was delivered to TransAsia on April of that same year. I feel like that, to me, that's not like an old plane that, okay, maybe it was due to retire or anything. That's a relatively new aircraft. I don't know.
And
it scares me to think that we have these planes up in the air with either poor engineering or poor pilots that could be crashing into major cities. I mean, thank God they're going into rivers and going into the ocean rather than a major city.
I don't even think of it as that way right now, because all I can think of is when 5 different planes in, a 4-year time span?
Actually, it was less than that.
Right. But when that many go down in a small point in time, my first thought is someone is targeting that airline and making the planes go down, and they don't want anybody to know, so they're calling it accidents.
That could be true. I mean, I'd like to think they wouldn't hide that fact, but then again, I look at, I feel like after September 11th, 2001, a lot of things changed, including a lot of the, aircraft and oversight and basically how they run, especially here in America. But the word hijack isn't taken lightly anymore. And I feel like if they are getting attacked or bombarded, they probably wouldn't want people knowing. It would be really bad for business, first of all, but it would also cause mass panic, because you don't really know where these are going. But at the same time, I feel like if it was someone trying to hijack it, they're going to go after some major item. They're going to be targeting something much similar to what we saw in September of 2001. They're not just going to crash it in the middle of nowhere.
Right, but if they're going after something specific, like maybe a person that's on the flights, then they would target something specific and go out in the middle of nowhere. So
Good point.
I don't know. It's my opinion that it's a little bit too convenient, but maybe I watch too many drama shows and things like that.
Part of me also thinks too, though, that it is possible. I'm not a very big everything has to be a conspiracy kind of person. I do see it though in some things. There are some things that just don't work. It doesn't make sense to me in my head. The way that they present it or portray it doesn't click with me.
And I'm in general consensus there. Like, I don't think everything is the conspiracy. That's my husband.
No.
Like, I think that there's accidents, and then I think there's something too convenient for an accident. For example, it's like a child. Whenever, they're wanting attention, they'll conveniently hurt themselves. There's legit, and then there's, okay, this is a little bit too convenient for my taste.
Yeah. And I feel like, while I know that there is going to be some risk in almost any kind of transportation, for instance, I think it was yesterday actually, a metro line had a collision with a car. I believe 6 people at this point were killed. That number was actually reduced very recently. I think it went from 7 to 6. But something like that could happen to me. I mean, I know it's very unlikely, but the truth of the matter is, we were on a light rail for probably about an hour and 30 minutes today, crossing over busy intersections, and it's not as though it's impossible for the same thing to happen. It's disturbing to think about, but the truth of the matter is, no matter what kind of transportation you're taking, you're always taking a risk. There's not a perfectly safe solution. It's very rare to see things like cruise ships sink and trains crash and things like that. I mean, once upon a time, it was a little bit more common because of technology being lacking where it was lacking. But I guess people think about it in terms of numbers. The thing with the Metro North crash is up in New York is not 6 people in people's minds is a lot less of a number than the giant deaths we see with some of the East Airlines crash. that I think that's what kind of separates it in people's mind. They think, oh, well, there's tiny little accidents here and there, or there's tiny shutdowns of public transit here and there, but it's like, no, you seriously can die.
Yeah, but then you also have to understand that if you go on that theory for the rest of your life and never do anything that could kill you, then you might as well just give up.
Well, no, and that's what I'm partially trying to say here, is it's not, it's not as if there is a perfectly safe method, so there's no point in necessarily completely avoiding transportation. I think you need to be well educated on it. You need to follow proper safety precautions, and you need to actually like watch your surroundings, especially if you're the one operating the vehicle, like a car or something of that nature. But there is not ever a perfectly safe mode of transportation, and people have to travel, whether it be for work, family, whatever. You can't just sit in your house all day.
Speaking of sitting in your house all day, have you seen the new animated Japanese, like, I want to say it's like a music video type thing, but it's animated? It's called Me, Me, Me.
I have not even heard of it, no.
First and foremost, if you're a child and you cannot see sensitive material, please do not watch this video. It is not a video for children. But it has a lot of like nudity and stuff like that in it. And the only reason I watched it is because I saw a like an article video about it, explaining what the video is actually about. And when you watch it, you kind of go, okay, this is just another Japanese thing. Japanese are kind of a little bit weird in some of the things they do, but you know, it doesn't really mean anything. But then you really think about what you're watching, and you're like, oh, this actually has a meaning. And the meaning behind it is that there's a lot of people in Japan that have really bad social anxiety. And so this video is about the people that have social anxiety and try to live a normal life, but they're unable to. So the video is trying to explain how realistically troubling it is that there are people out there with this large social anxiety and we're not doing anything to help them, or, you know, it's a major thing that we're not noticing.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I've recently been I don't want to say like educated, because I know enough about different levels of social disabilities or issues that I don't feel like I'm insensitive to them, but there's a lot of little nuances and things that I've never really taken into account to being possibly related to that. Just the little things, like sometimes the way people act or behave in public, where I'm looking at them from a standpoint of, you know, why are they doing that? Right. Or what are they thinking? And it's just their way of handling the situation that they aren't comfortable with. So I've recently kind of had my eyes opened by one of my friends who has a relative, basically, that has a lot of issues with the social anxiety, I guess you would say. And the behaviors that come out aren't bad, they're just not normal. You don't look at them and think, oh, that's just completely normal. It's kind of been a little bit of an eye-opener to me to think, you know, it's not necessarily like they're completely unable to operate, just sometimes larger public settings and things like that don't work well with them.
And we do have to identify the word normal, too, because in all reality, if you say the word normal, I could be abnormal as you could possibly
Good point,
think.
yeah. Everyone likes to sit there and...
Did I lose you, Cassie? Cassie? We will be back for a little bit of technical difficulties.